I wonder if we can start with the Secret Service. And it feels like they are inviting skepticism and scrutiny in terms of what they're providing. Can you tell us what was provided to the committee, just categories of what you received?
Sure. So we received a letter in response to our subpoena on last Friday. We received a letter today that did provide us with a lot of documents and some data. However, we did not receive the additional text messages that we were looking for. The explanation that the Secret Service has given is that they were in the middle of they were planning a migration of sorts. What happened, though, is that they received 4 requests from congressional committees on January 16th to preserve records. And they had this planned migration for the 25th, I believe, of January. And nobody along the way stopped and thought, well, maybe we shouldn't do the migration of data and of the devices until we are able to fulfill these 4 requests from Congress. They moved ahead with their efforts to migrate the devices and the data. And their process, as explained to us, was simply to leave it to the agents to determine whether or not there was anything on their phones worth saving that was necessary to save for federal records. And as a result, today they did not receive any texts from their agents when they made that transition that was flagged for preservation. But what they have also said is that they are going to continue to see if there are other ways in which they can secure the required and subpoenaed text messages that we have asked for. My hope certainly is that they do find a way to find those texts and respond to the subpoena.
At the risk of sounding like one of Trump's cronies, is it not suspicious that text messages were deleted from the day of the deadliest attack on the United States Capitol from any government entity that was literally on the scene protecting the second most powerful human in the country, the vice president?
I think it underscores why our investigation has sought to understand what the law enforcement agencies and the U.S. military, other folks who were responding to the January 6th riot, the January 6th attack on the Capitol. We have done a lot to seek to understand what these agencies did, what they knew when, how they responded, because part of our report has to be to identify areas of improvement around communication, around response, around intelligence. And so it's critically important to us that the Secret Service, charged with protecting not just the president, but also the vice president, provides us full information about their role on this critically important day so that we can prevent this from ever happening again, and so that we can ensure that the agencies coordinate one with the other well enough to ensure that we protect the president, the vice president, and the Capitol.
Congresswoman, when I worked in the White House, I traveled all over the world with the Secret Service. They have an honorable mission. But this response to the subpoena saying, we proceeded with a regularly scheduled transfer of devices does not cast them in a particularly transparent or noble manner. Are they cognizant of that? And are they trying to repair that by offering you something else, more testimony from any agent that was on duty that day?
I can't tell you what it is that they are thinking or what their motivations are. I won't stand here and pretend to guess. But what I will say is that when the Inspector General raised this issue with us, the Secret Service adamantly denied that they were either stonewalling the Inspector General or that the text messages were lost. And then when we subpoenaed those text messages, we have now received additional information. It just basically leaves us with a lot more questions and the need to continue to work with the agency to see if we can't get to the bottom of this.
Can you tell us, it's been reported that their regular text messages are not on an encrypted messaging system like Signal or WhatsApp. Is that the case?
I can't get into the details of that, but I will say that they communicate not just through text message, they also communicate through radio and email, and there are other forms of communication that they have with among the agents as well as with other agencies. And in some cases, we have been able to secure some of those communications or reported of what was on those channels. And I'm not going to get too much into the details of that, but I think as the committee has done in due time, as we put together a fuller picture, we will share the most pertinent information that we receive with the American people.
It feels central in terms of the public case the committee has made so far that the president had knowledge of the specific threat environment on the Mall and at the Capitol that day. That radio traffic that was played at Cassidy Hutchinson's live hearing remains one of the most haunting things I've ever heard in my career in politics or covering politics, where they're talking about the types of weapons. And there was video of Trump supporters in trees with long guns and talking about spears and hand-fashioned knives attached to the end of flagpoles and the guns that they had. Are you able to, or are you pursuing a hearing focused just on what the president's awareness and the Secret Service was communicating amongst themselves and to him about the threat that day?
Well, you've seen a little preview of it as you just reviewed about what the president knew, as well as what the Secret Service knew about the weapons that were in the crowd. But I think in the next hearing, in the 187 minutes here on Thursday, you will see more information about who knew what and when. And we will really try to take you into the White House, as well as into some of the other actors, departments, and agencies to help lay out what happened in the 187 minutes, what the president and others attempted to, or how they responded, and what they didn't do. And I think that's going to be really critically important for the narrative of what happened in the run-up to and on January 6th itself.
Ahead of the public hearings, the committee member, I think it was Congressman Jamie Raskin, said that the committee will blow the roof off. And there was a question about whether that expectation could be met. And ahead of each hearing, expectations have been set high. And I think in the view of most people who have watched them, which is a lot of people, they have been exceeded. What is your sort of expectation setting for Thursday?
Well, I come from a DOD background, and I think we used to have a saying that you under-promise and over-perform. Yeah. So that's my typical approach to this. But what I will say is that our hearings to date have been full of surprises. They have unveiled information that wasn't previously out there, and I expect nothing less out of our 187-minute hearing here. And I hope you and your viewers tune in because I think this conversation and this information is critically important to defending the democracy and defending this country.
Let me ask you a personal, not personal opinion, but just an informed assessment of what you think is going on based on what your knowledge, your intimate knowledge of the investigation and the evidence. What do you think the Secret Service is hiding?
I don't want to say that they are hiding something, but it is clear that there are a lot of questions that have to be answered about their process and procedures, not just on the day of an incident as large as January 6th, but also as it relates to the requirement for federal record keeping. As you have and others have reported, the National Archives is also reaching out to find out what exactly happened here. This information is too important to have been mishandled and misplaced. It comes down to the effectiveness of our government to protect our highest leaders. And what we saw on January 6th was an attack on the U.S. Capitol that revealed to all of our enemies, foreign and domestic, that the Capitol can be a soft target. And so we as a committee have a responsibility not only to tell the story of what happened, but also to provide recommendations so that we can harden the vulnerabilities that exist. And there's been work that has been done there already by the House Admin Committee and other and Senate committees, but I think there's more work to be done. And in order to provide the most fulsome set of recommendations, we have to have the full set of data and information. And I certainly hope that the Secret Service will cooperate with us, especially since as an agency, they have been for so long an independent agency, apolitical, willing to take a bullet for anybody, no matter what their political stripes are. And it's critically important that they are able to retain that. But I imagine that the country is watching what their response in this situation is. And my sense is that their mission is too important to let politics get in the way.
I know you have to go. My last quick question is, if you don't get if the committee does not receive what it has asked for in terms of document and transparency, would you rule out subpoenaing the Secret Service agents who were on duty that day and the day before?
What I will say is that we follow the facts to wherever they lead and use whatever tools that are within the committee's jurisdiction in order to secure that information. And as has been previously reported, we have spoken to people who were a part of that motorcade. We have spoken to folks with knowledge in parallel to what the Secret Service may have. And so, we're going to follow the facts to wherever they lead. And we hope that patriots, Americans who love this country, will cooperate with us and provide the committee with the information we need to protect our country and our democracy.